Greetings, Fissels family and friends. This is the pastoral message for Thursday, November 19. I'm coming to you again from Gettysburg, specifically from the Soldiers National Cemetery. And this message is for Dedication Day. November 19th is the anniversary, this year the 157th anniversary of the dedication of the Soldiers National Cemetery, which lies behind the iron fencing to my rear, and the occasion of Lincoln's delivery of the Gettysburg Address. Today's message will likely be more historical than spiritual, but I hope you will find it inspirational. Now, I'm in Evergreen Cemetery instead of in the National Cemetery itself because it's felt that this site that I'm standing on is where the speaker's platform for the dedication ceremony was held. At the time of the battle and the dedication, this fence work wasn't here. In fact, these fence panels were fence panels that had surrounded the White House in the past and many years ago were brought here when they replaced that fencing at the White House. But using pictures from the time of the event, of the dedication, experts have judged that the location of the speaker's platform was likely here, facing not the direction I'm facing, but facing out towards the cemetery. And behind us here is the Soldiers National Memorial, where for many years people thought the speaker's platform was, but that wouldn't make sense. One, it doesn't go along with the pictures, and two, that would have meant the spectators would have been standing in the area where the graves were being dug, and that would not obviously have been appropriate. Now, if you come to visit Evergreen Cemetery and come to this site behind the memorial, you will notice that there are several gravestones around here. These are graves that happened after the battle and after the dedication, and so this was, at that point, even though part of Evergreen Cemetery was open space that allowed for the speaker's platform and spectators around the platform. What many people also don't know is that there are 5 existing copies of the Gettysburg Address in Lincoln's hand, and they don't have all the exact same wording. Today I'll be reading from what is known as the Nicolay copy, and this is likely the copy that Lincoln used on November 19, 1863. The first page of the address is written on White House stationery and was written likely before he came to Gettysburg on November 18th, and the second page, the completion of the address, is on other stationery, which he likely wrote that evening before the dedication. Lincoln arrived in Gettysburg by train that happened to pass through Hanover Junction. It actually the train would have gone through Glen Rock, and the train arrived here on the evening of November 18th. Lincoln stayed in the house of David Wills, the local attorney who organized the dedication ceremony. He stayed there that night and completed the address. And then that morning, on a procession, Lincoln rode by horseback down Baltimore Street, or up Baltimore Street, depending on how you look at it, to the cemetery, to this location, and gave the address. There's a second copy that is thought to have been written around the time of the address, and it possibly was the speaker's copy. If not, it's thought to have been written by Lincoln when he returned to Washington, and that copy is called the Hay copy. The first copy is called the Nicolay copy because Lincoln gave it to his primary secretary, John Nicolay, and the Hay copy he gave to his assistant secretary, John Hay. Both of those copies are stored at the Library of Congress. The 3 other copies were written by Lincoln later in February and March of 1864 to be used for fundraisers for what are called sanitary fairs, which are sort of the Civil War equivalent of the USO, to help raise money for troops and their families. And the wording, as I said, for the different copies are a little bit different. Particularly, you'll note in the copy I read today, the Nicolay copy, and also in the Hay copy, the phrase "under God" is not present. In the 3 other copies, including the final copy, known as the Bliss copy, which is what's carved in the Lincoln Memorial, and the original of which is in the Lincoln bedroom at the White House, does have "under God." But the newspaper reports from the actual ceremony included "under God" in their text, and so their stenographers wrote that down. So Lincoln, off the cuff, seemed to have added "under God" to help solemnize the dedication and dedicate the cemetery and the nation's purpose as being under God. And so here is the Gettysburg Address as recorded on the Nicolay copy. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of it as a final resting place for those who died here, that that nation might live. This we may in all propriety do. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have hallowed it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, while it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us, the living, we here be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And so I hope that we continue to live into the ideals expressed in the Declaration of Independence that Lincoln made reference to in the Gettysburg Address, and that our country continues to be reborn with that new birth of freedom, that all may know liberty and justice. Please continue to hold the congregation, all who are on the sick list in your prayers, all who across the world are suffering from COVID in your prayers. I look forward to coming to you on Saturday with a reflection on Psalm 11 in the Saturday series, and then worshiping together on Sunday for our Harvest Home celebration. Until we speak again, stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong. And I know the God who is continuing to watch over us and watch over the nation is blessing us all. Goodbye for now.